All right, so as Chris mentioned, I want to talk about composing agent experience. I work for Databricks, which acquired Neon, so I joined Databricks with the Neon acquisition last summer. And Neon is a dev tool. Let's maybe just do a quick raise of hands who of you has heard of Neon before. All right, I'm doing my job just right. That's awesome. Okay, so Neon, a dev tool. Agents are the ones actually creating databases these days. 90% of databases at Neon are created by agents, mostly through Replit, but also just through Cursor, Cloud Code, and other agents. So thinking about how agents interact with dev tools is becoming more and more important. And there's a lot that goes into this. So I just want to share all my knowledge with you guys today. I want to start very basic, just what is agent experience, what components feed into the agent experience. Then we'll talk a little bit about Neon strategy specifically. I think it should be very similar to recent strategy and other dev tools in our space. And then I thought it would be fun to go over some Twitter hot takes and just add some nuance, maybe fight about them. Who knows? We'll see. All right, so let's start very simple. Agent experience. I'm sure all of you guys have used Cloud Code before, Cursor. Who of you has an agents.md file or claude.md file? All right. Who of you has authored an agent skill? That's not 100%. I'm surprised. Okay, who has installed a third-party agent skill? Okay, so everybody has kind of an idea what an agent skill is. Definitely worked with agent.md files. That's good. Okay, who has used an MCP server? Amazing. Okay, cool. So all of this is obviously part of agent experience. And I love all the terms, by the way, like in 2026, right? Like we talk about AI memory, agent experience, agentic systems. Yeah, it sounds a little bit too fancy in my opinion, but whoever coined the term agent experience is actually Matt from Netlify, and he coined the term a year ago actually already, and he defined it as the holistic experience agents have when they are the users of a platform or tool, right? It's very similar or analogous to developer experience, where you as a developer interact with tools, and then if you don't have a good time, you have a bad developer experience. Similarly, if agents fail to interact with Neon, then Neon has a bad agent experience, right? And the most important bit here, and that's actually the thing I want you to take away, if anything, from the talk, is that a good developer experience 100% translates into a good agent experience as well. So the foundation, if you want your agents to be successful with a dev tool, the first thing you have to do is make developers successful with your tool. And then once you have done that, you can iterate and go further. And then just to level set everybody, I'm not going to go too deep in each of these, but just these are kind of the agent tools that we use every day right now that compose together the agent experience that you would add on top of the developer tooling you already have. So that's the agent.md file, right? That's your primary knowledge for repository. Agent skills are additional secondary knowledge, like knowledge content that you can add to your agents. MCP servers give your agents access to third-party tools and services, right? That can be context that they load in, but it can also just be interacting with resources and services. And then plugins is really just a way to bundle MCP servers, agent skills, and other components together for distribution, right? Codex has a plugin marketplace, I think announced today, right? So congrats Codex team. And Cursor has a plugin marketplace, and all it is it's literally a configuration file that bundles agent skills and MCP servers together. llms.txt, that's an index for agents on documentation pages. The agent queries the index the llms.txt file, and that's an agent-first way for the agent to know what's on the documentation side. And lastly, agents want to query content not at HTML, but as Markdown, because it's way easier for them to read, reduces the context bloat. So this is really just everything that is agent experience today, is like assembling these things together and composing them. And if you have heard of these before and have used them, I think then this is a really good starting point. I don't really have time to go too deep into this, but if you are doing a developer tool and you want to get started with agent experience, I try to create you a little checklist of all the steps I would go to, like step by step in more detail, how I would compose these things together. And once I don't see any phones anymore, I can show it real quick. It's basically already what we went over, which is you start with a good developer experience. You build a great platform. If you don't have a great platform, you don't have to bother building an agent skill. Then you try to get out a good REST API, good documentation, CLI, right? And you iterate over this. And then you add all the agent experience bits and pieces on top, starting with the llms.txt file, right? Like Neon's example here. You just list all your docs pages, you add some details for the agents, and so on and so forth. So I hope this is also very basic, but I hope this is a good starting point if you're interested in diving deeper into agent experience. Oops, this is how I vibe coded it. All right, so let's dive into the Neon bit here a little bit. Like, what's the perspective I can add from Neon? We were supposed to have a talk from Vercel, a talk from OpenAI, and then my talk. And I feel like the silly dragon a little bit, because OpenAI is literally driving agent experience, right? Like Codex and the other harnesses and the agent labs, they defining what agent experience is, right? If the Codex model or the Cloud Code model decide that skills are super important, then skills are super important. If they decide MCP resources are super important, then MCP resources are super important, right? And then Vercel is obviously very much a thought leader in the space with creating the open skills marketplace or ecosystem. And so what's the perspective I can give you guys? It's basically that of a developer tool that is trying to move as fast as possible in the space, never be too late, because that's not a good idea right now. You want to be the first one, the fast follower, following companies like OpenAI and Vercel. But things have changed today because Hayden, and I don't want to steal his thunder, but he actually joined OpenAI. So it's actually, I'm front-running 2 talks from OpenAI today, and I obviously had to meme this a little bit because it's definitely getting out of hand here. But yeah, so just summarizing this one more time, right? Like agent experience is incredibly early. And all of these tools that assemble agent experience together, like agent skills, are incredibly early. So what's Neon's strategy here? We try to be the fast follower. The second we see something is picking up on Twitter, like agent skills in January, right? We jump on it. We try to be the first one who have a really good high-quality skill on the skill.sh website, and then just follow whatever the technological trigger from OpenAI is, and what other big companies like Vercel are putting out in this space, and then just trying to be really fast as following. And it's really tricky because there's a new standard and a new something released every week right now, right? So it's really about finding the signals, finding what actually gains traction, ignoring all the noise. If I were to jump on every trend, I would likely not sleep anymore. So it's really important to only jump on things if you realize there's actually a little bit of traction behind them, right? Like you can see that in how it performs on Twitter, how many other companies are jumping on it. But then it's also a little bit of like a gut feeling and taste, right? Like you can look at something and decide like this is not worth my time. But then the way we think about like plugins, plugin market spaces, also skill.sh, and all of these different new things that are popping up is shelf space, right? Anytime you see the Neon logo in one of these, that's already good for awareness, and that's a good starting point. And from there, then we iterate and we try to make that a really good experience for agents. And let me jump to the next slide here and show this here. So this is how we think about iterating quickly. If you've ever talked to system engineer, you know they work a little slower than web people. I'm a full stack developer myself, so I'm not building API platforms, I build funny websites, and I can ship them in a day. But if you want to actually build something like an OAuth flow in an API platform that is used by millions of people, it just takes a little bit of time, right? So if you want to move really fast and be a fast follower, how do you do that with a database platform, right? And the answer, I think, what we're trying to do is we try to iterate really quickly in that green spot. That is the CLI, that is the MCP servers, that's the agent skills, where even if something breaks, like nothing really happens. And then only if we have realized that it's worth our time and that thing actually sticks, and it has been over a year, MCP is still around, and we can talk about this in a little bit. But it looks like MCP will be around, so it's worthwhile investing further in our MCP server. And as we see that patterns kind of like harden, we move them up into the REST API, like move it up into the stack, and where the engineering time is a little bit more costly and takes more time. All right, so Neon strategy, just to summarize, is we try to be super fast, and every time we see a trend, we try to jump on it. Agent experience is the holistic experience an agent has when it interacts with your dev tool. And this is really important right now. And if you're on Twitter, you will see a hot take about agent experience every day right now. And I thought it would be fun to just go over them and use them as a way to dive deeper into the matter. And since we had Y Combinator, I thought I'm going to pick this tweet first. And just like to point something out, right? MCP sucks, honestly. It needs too much context window, and you have to toggle it on and off, and the R sucks, right? So I'm not going to comment if I agree or disagree. That's beside the point. What I want to point out here is you see hot takes like this every day on Twitter, and what you don't really realize is you don't really take a step back to understand who is that person representing. Is this an individual developer? Is this someone who works on the Codex team or the Cursor team? Or is this a DevTool maintainer, right? Because there's a lot of different entities that are involved in agent experience, and they all have a little bit different objectives, right? As someone working at Neon, I care a lot about having a single source of truth in my documentation so that I can actually maintain it. I care about distribution and discoverability. That's why I love agent skills. And I care a lot about, just like steering the agents and helping them be successful with Neon. While a developer cares way more about context bloat, just like minimizing the size of their prompts so that they can be quicker in their vibe coding efforts. And then I assume Cursor, OpenAI, and Anthropic also are part, obviously, of the conversations as the ones shaping the models and the agents. And they think about plugins and how they can support the developers using the tools, right? So overall, I feel like all the objectives align. We just want to vibe code and have fun and like build cool tools quicker with agents. But behind the scenes, there's like a little bit of a difference in how we think about things and how, like, what's our primary goal versus secondary goal, right? So if you see a hot take, like from Gary here, right? He has been vibe coding a lot. So he's definitely representing a developer. He's not representing a dev tool company. So if I'm reading this, I'm like, maybe I disagree because MCP servers are a really cool way for people to interact with Neon, right? But just as because I'm coming from a different point of view, I'm coming from the point of view of a dev tool versus that of an individual developer. And I feel like if you just add that perspective to each hot take on Twitter, many of them make more sense. All right. So who agrees with this take here? No, come on, don't be shy. No one, okay. So I actually think there's some truth to this take, right? Like agents.md is better than agent skills. The agents.md file, in my mind, should be the thing prioritized over everything else, right? It's like the readme.md file or the contributing.md file in your code base. This is the primary thing where you add the most important things that an agent or developer should consider, right? So you could say agents.md is more powerful than agent skills, right? So I think to some extent that hot take makes sense, but the reason DevTools love agent skills so much is because they solve distribution and discoverability with the open skills ecosystem by Vercel with skills.sh, and the spec still allows them to steer agents, which in the end of the day is what matters, and with the npx skills CLI, you can install and maintain them, right? Anytime I make a change to our agent skills repository and someone runs the install or update command, I can be sure they have the latest version of my skill, right? All of that is impossible with agent.md files. Like, I have no way to touch someone's agents.md file, and that's why I, as a tool maintainer, I really don't care about agents.md files because there's no way for me to interact with them, to update them. So again, it's all about the perspective and the objectives you have, right? And DevTool maintainers have very different objectives than individual developers. Okay, what do you guys think about this hot take? Disagree, agree? Who agrees that MCP is dead? Okay, some people, yeah. Depends, nice. So MCP is usable by non-developers, right? If you're a vibe coder on Lovable or Replit, you likely can click a few buttons and add an integration, which behind the scenes is an MCP server. Same with plugins, right? Like everybody can install a plugin, and behind the scenes that is an MCP server. I think people underestimate how important MCP will be in the enterprise specifically, because you can proxy them, you can track usage, you can do governance and all of that fun stuff that enterprises rely on, right? Versus that stuff is almost impossible to do with CLIs that are installed locally. So MCP definitely has its place, but it's also true that we developers love CLIs, and that using CLIs is insanely easy on a sandbox or personal devices, right? So as a developer, I totally prefer CLIs over MCP for many use cases, but I think there's still a place for MCP. And the last one, agent skills will replace MCP. Who agrees with this one? Yes, but I've seen this one on Twitter many times, and every time I see this, I'm like, I don't even know where to start. But I guess I kind of know where to start now. So there's some truth to this too, right? Where you cannot, a lot of the things MCP provides, nobody uses. When was the last time you used elicitation in an MCP server? Right? Like probably never. MCP servers also have resources, but like models never pick them up. Like I've never seen a model actually be like, oh, I found this resource in the Neon MCP server, let me have a look, right? It just not happens unless you like specifically tag it. So I've just given up on MCP resources, and you can totally make a case that whatever was a resource before, people are now authoring as an agent skill. So I think there's some truth to the fact that a lot of the things that MCP promised, nobody is using, and agent skills are a replacement for some parts of it, right? You can totally say skill.md is the better resource, and scripts, I've never actually seen someone really use agent skill scripts, so then it's MCP is better for tool calling than scripts, right? So there's like a give and take, and they compose very nicely together, but technically you could implement everything skills do with MCP, but nobody's doing it. So it's just interesting. Again, perspective, right, or nuance, like there's a little bit of truth here. Okay, so where do we end up? And I think I have to come to an end here. I think the honest truth as a dev tool maintainer is that right now, regardless of the hot takes and what people say, you just have to do it all. You have to provide an MCP server, you have to provide a good CLI, you have to provide agent skills, because losing out is worse than doing one thing that nobody uses. And what I want you to remember here is that we're still like insanely early, right? Like most of the specs and tech that we're talking about today will not matter in 2 years. Like it will not be the same thing. The same way nobody's using touch.facebook.com anymore to go to the mobile side of Facebook, right? But that's not the case, not the thing that matters. What matters is that Facebook survived the mobile revolution. They actually won it, right? And the way they did it is they experimented a bunch. They had a m.facebook.com site, and Google had ASP. Does someone remember ASP? Like the mobile optimized sites, right? All of that stuff doesn't, like nobody's using this anymore. But what's important is that's the tech that brought these companies to the point where they are today, which is they survived, right? So being too slow or not part of the discussion is worse than just trying something out that doesn't stick. All right, and then I want to leave you on a very positive note. Like the time here right now is like, it's so exciting to be in SF in 2026. Like this stuff is insane. I never thought I would be part of a technical revolution like this in my career. I thought I would be too young. I was too young for mobile, too young for cloud, and I would just talk about React versus Svelte for my whole career. So this stuff is really exciting, and I know it's a little overwhelming too, right? Like agent skills, MCP, CLI, like all of this, like how does this compose, what is happening tomorrow? But look at it for the bright side, right? It's all about just like exploring, tinkering right now and seeing what sticks, and try to have a good time while it's happening. Thanks so much.